The Miami Marlins are off to an interesting start. Their defending Cy Young winner is showing why he won. Let's talk fish and swim across the pond, the big pond, crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and bring in Peter Pratt of Locked On Marlins to talk fish. This is Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If I wasn't, how could I have this lower third where I claim to be called Sully? I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for over a decade now, and I'm now in my fifth season here at the Locked On Podcast Network. Half a decade of Locked On MLB. Can you believe it? I know I can't. You can follow this show at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or on Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube as we're trying to reach 1 billion followers. And you can also tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On MLB, or check out some of the other great shows of the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's just take one totally at random right now. Let's go to Locked On Marlins, hosted by the great Peter Pratt. How are you, buddy?
Sully, how are we doing? I love that intro as well, by the way.
All the way from Leeds in the U of K. So naturally, we're talking Miami.
Absolutely.
Well, there you go.
How has this happened? How is this guy sat in Leeds in the UK talking about the Marlins? What is going on here?
Hey, go back to your first appearance on there. We do your whole biography. You're Peter Pratt. You know your fish. Let's go. You got your fish. You got your chips. We got Marlins. Let's go.
Let's go.
You're over there. You're in England. Sorry about the Queen. And too soon?
It's fine. It's fine. We're fine.
By the way, in case you're wondering, Peter Pratt, 19th in the order of succession. So in order into the crown. So
I'm close.
A lot of things had to go wrong for Peter Pratt to become king, but I wish you luck. But the Earl of Marlins is in his palace in Leeds. By the way, Americans care about that stuff so much more than everyone from Britain I've ever met. Everyone in Britain is like, I don't know, the Earl, I don't give a crap. You know, and then you got so many people over here like, oh, is that Sussex? Like, you know, but I don't know.
I completely agree, by the way. There's a lot of hype elsewhere, less so here.
But I can't stress this enough. I'm not making fun of the people who do that. If that's your thing, that's your thing. We all have our thing. I can't sit here and have done a Milwaukee Brewers podcast on Christmas morning and criticize someone for breaking down the royal family. We all have our things, and if you want to listen to it, check out Locked On Royals. Don't tell them what it's really all about. Ryland talks all about the Royals, and you'll love every bit of it. Hey, man, I got to tell something right off the top of the bat here. I picked the Marlins to go to the playoffs this year.
Whoa.
I picked them to be a wild card team.
Big.
I will tell you, and I probably just cursed them, but here's why. I think the Phillies are weaker than they were last year, and we've seen them not be great. I think there is a wild card spot that is winnable. I think Los Angeles and San Diego are going to go in. I think New York and Atlanta are going to go in. And I think probably and it may very well be Milwaukee having that other one. But that being said, there is that one wild card spot that is available. And I looked up, and of all the teams that are kind of on the cusp, I trust the Marlins pitching more than I trust the other teams pitching. And they got rid of Don Mattingly, and every team that gets rid of Don Mattingly goes to the World Series. So I think that combination of events, I like their pitching staff. And let's talk. I mean, what does that frighten you? Does that scare you that I picked the Marlins to go to the playoffs?
Season's cooked now, Sully. Season's
There you
over
go.
for the fish. That is it. Now
Better start the rebuild.
there we go. I mean, I'm wouldn't be shocked to see Sandy Alcantara traded tomorrow. Now after we've heard this news that you've locked them in the wild card spots. That's interesting. I agree with you, by the way. I thought the same heading in the year. There's a sneaky chance for this fish team to get into the wild card 3. It does link to the Phillies, though.
Yes.
So I think it does pertain to the Phils. If they are the most hungover team ever, which they've started slow, we'll see how they go. But if they are hungover, there's a spot there that can be shot at. And if the Marlins play well, one of their range of outcomes is a wild card 3 spot. One of their other ranges of outcomes is 65 wins. They have got a huge variance in their number, in my opinion, this year.
I'll disagree with you. I don't see them getting to 60. I don't see them being a 65 win team.
I hope
I
not.
really don't.
I hope not.
No, I don't. For your sakes, God, I hope you're not.
Boy,
but I like their pitching staff. And yes, there have been instances of teams that have wonderful pitching staffs that have a losing season. But I think if more often than not, you're putting a good pitcher on the mound, then that means more often than not, you'll have a chance to win. You have heads and shoulders, the best Cy Young candidate is on the team, which means the chance of them going on a prolonged losing streak, which you would have to have if you were a 65 win team, which is on the cusp of 100 losses. Americans can do math. I don't see that happening with this team. I really don't. I feel confident in that. I feel confident they're pitching, and you're right. It is linked directly to Philadelphia, but Philadelphia getting in last year was linked directly to the Brewers falling on their face at the end of the year. Because remember, the Brewers were in first place at the trade deadline, and they fell totally out of the playoff spot, opening up that wild card spot, which allowed Philadelphia to go, all the way to within 2 games of winning the whole damn thing. But don't get too excited there. But don't get too excited. But yes. But things like this are always tied in. Like when the Nats won the division, stunned everyone, won the division back in 2012, that was also linked to the fact that the Marlins fell on their face, the Braves underachieved, and the Phillies got hurt. So it's always going to be a combination. And I just look at the teams of the sneaky teams. Yeah. And I'm always going to err on a team that, Alcantara, obviously, through the first complete shutout the other day, he looks like he hasn't missed a beat. He's pitched 14 2/3 innings, let up 3 runs, 6 hits. But Luzardo, who was an afterthought for some people, as part of the deal that from Oakland a few years ago, has pitched very, very well this year. And all right, the Johnny Cueto experiment may have lasted 1 game, but
one inning.
Yeah, 1 inning, exactly. But I like, and the Matt Barnes experiment, we'll see how long that goes on. I like their pitching staff. I like that this is the type of team, especially if Trevor Rogers starts to pitch well. If Trevor Rogers pitches well, then you have a 3 deep starting staff, which I don't know, means 60% of the games you have a real legit shot of winning.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the known entities right now, Sandy Alcantara, the stud, we know it, and Jesus Luzardo. The reason the Marlins are willing to move Pablo Lopez was the fact that they knew Jesus Luzardo can step up to the 2. They knew it, and he showed that. Then it comes down to the Trevor Rogers you mentioned and Edward Cabrera. Can those 2 guys step up and deliver what they're towards their ceiling? And if they can, then this rotation has a 1-4 that looks immense. You then have Johnny Cueto, that experiment as you called it, lasted 1 inning. What's happening in the 5th starter role? We'll wait to see. I think there's going to be mix and match, Braxton Garrett, few guys. But the Marlins sitting there in the minor leagues. We'll see how it goes, but you've got Uri Perez, the potential best pitching prospect in baseball that isn't far. We saw him start in spring, multiple games. He isn't far. No. And so if the Marlins are in the mix and all of a sudden Braxton Garrett comes in the 5th starter role, okay, it doesn't go well or he gets hurt, and they're looking around for some depth, they may think, hey, listen, it's Uri Perez time. Let's go in 2023.
And here's the deal. Here's where, and again, I'll cover a couple of the other names in segment 2. But the nice thing about Perez, who is sitting there, and I think this is different than keeping a kid in the minor leagues to manipulate their service time. I don't
100%.
think that's what's happening here. I think they're legitimately saying this is a potential all-star arm we have in the farm. Let's make sure he's ready. But if he does come up, he doesn't have the pressure of you are our ace or even you're our number 2. And I think this is to have an Alcantara in the rotation would allow him to sneak in the 3 or 4 spot. It's similar, and I'm knocking on glass table here for the Marlins' sake, of having a Verlander there when a Framber Valdez is coming into his own. Yep. You don't put the huge pressure on the young kid to have this role, but if he comes in and is the type of pitcher that he showed flashes of in spring training, then game on. But I sometimes when you do see a star who's being kept down there for ridiculously obvious reasons, like what the Rays did with David Price or what the Cubs did with Chris Bryant, I don't think that's what's happening here. I think this is actually smart to sort of, to not throw him immediately into the deep end, although fish can't swim.
No, your assessment's absolutely perfect, though, Sully. Like, this isn't service time manipulation here. He isn't quite ready. He's so young. He's only, he's 19. He's so young, Uri Perez. But the talent is telling us that he's almost ready. And it's just a little bit of fine tuning. He's starting the year in AA, actually. So they've started him again in AA. But he's ready. Like, he will be ready at some point in this year. And so if they need him, then we will see Uri Perez in 2023.
And even if he's not healthy, having a Cueto who also has been a Cy Young caliber ace and been in the World Series and all this other stuff, that can't possibly hurt. Well, I'll tell you what also won't hurt: the fact that we got a new sponsor. So Rare. It's a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transformation for fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 teams. Yes! Sandy Alcantara is there too. Unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, and we're not going to name them, So Rare managers truly own their fantasy experience. They're not renting, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards. And there's no cost to play. Plus, the more you win, the more you advance, collecting increasingly powerful cards and accessing next-level competitions and rewards. Okay, So Rare recently partnered with Major League All-Stars Juan Soto, Yikes, Julio Rodriguez, both names start with J, to serve as brand ambassadors. Both are featured in So Rare's current brand campaign and will engage with a So Rare community throughout the season at Major League Baseball events. MLB game weeks happen twice weekly and span a 3 to 4 day cycle. At the end of game weeks, So Rare MLB managers who rank at or near the top of their leaderboards win a variety of awards like So Rare scarcity cards, easy for you to say, game tickets, merchandise, signed jersey, and VIP experience like meeting MLB stars. Prize may vary depending on the competition. So head to sorare.com/lockedon. That's spelled SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/lockedon to start playing today. I know my mom understood every word of that ad read.
Absolutely. Straight into sorare.com.
My mom is into So Rare. That's true.
No doubt.
So are my boys. And so should you. We're here with Peter Pratt of Locked On Marlins. The Locked On, well, let's just be honest. The 2023 World Series champion Miami Marlins. Wouldn't that be great? There you go. The other day, Jorge Soler got a couple of big home runs. The Marlins have really only had one big nasty loss. That big 11-1 loss they had the other day. It was really the only game they had. That was the Cueto start, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. It was.
That was really the only game. I mean, they've lost a few games, but they've been in them, which is another reason I'm like, okay, all right. Like they lost the Scherzer versus Alcantara opening day, but Alcantara pitched well. It's sort of like, okay, they didn't have the doors blown off. And I'll tell you something. They got a big day the other day from Jorge Soler. Lopez has pitched well for Minnesota, but Arise has hit well. You brought in Arise to be a solid major league bat in a lineup that desperately needed a solid major league bat. And lo and behold, granted, only a week into the season, holy Phil Esposito, he's a major league bat. And so that's sort of a little bit of, hey, this is exactly what they needed. Is he going to win a batting title or is he going to win a home run title? No, but he's also going to get a lot of hits, which a team with pitching needs that.
Need a lot of hits. I've been really impressed with Luis Arias, to be honest with you. Not seen a ton of him prior to the trade, and so I was a little bit uncertain, but early impressions a week in, I love Luis Arias, and to your point, though, Sully, it's exactly what the Marlins needed. They just needed to get the offense just jump-started out of the gate, and Arias is the perfect guy for that. I think there's been a 4-hit game in there already. I think he had a 14-game hit streak running. It was kind of carrying over from last season. Right. It was just snapped, so it's just ended. But overall, for me, Arias is setting the table. It's been interesting. They've been having Jazz Chisholm down in the cleanup spot a lot, actually. Arias had an off day yesterday, and Jazz kind of bumped back up to the top of the lineup. So I'm really intrigued to see the way the Marlins kind of set the lineups now with Arias and Jazz Chisholm. Obviously, a lot of eyeballs on Jazz more generally about this center field experiment. You talk about the Cueto experiment. The Jazz Chisholm Jr. center field experiment is the experiment in the Marlins right now. But offensively, Arias has looked nice. You mentioned Jorge Soler. 3 home runs, a multi-home run game to really get the win as part of the game yesterday. And Avisel Garcia with a home run in the 1-0 victory. So, listen, the Marlins pitching will keep them in games. Can they generate the offense to get the wins? And can the bullpen hold? They've added Puck, and I think that's a real upgrade too, to be honest with you. So we'll wait to see.
Here's one reason I want to just finish one thing off with the lineup before we stampede to the bullpen here. I mean, Chisholm and Garcia have not been off to, or Segura for that matter. None of them have been off to exactly world-shattering starts. But again, 7 games, so like a couple of offers all of a sudden, it's like, oh, should we DFA him? Yeah. If Arise continues to be the professional hitter that he is, we know Jazz is a capable major leaguer. Okay, he's a bat. He's a good bat. If they could get him, they could get Garcia just being a good hitter, having Soler be a good power hitter. You're not even asking any of them to be all-star caliber players. Just make sure you're not a sure out. I've seen several. They're like, I'm going back to some of the Giants teams before they got over the hump to win those World Series. There was a couple of years where they had their pitching they would have winning seasons, and their pitching was good enough to win most of the games. Like poor Matt Cain would lose a ton of 2-1 games. But when they had just enough bats to score, it allowed for them to develop this terrific pitching staff. And that's what I'm looking at, that Jazz and Avisel and Soler and Arias, if those 4 guys just be decent hitters, then that'll be enough to score some runs.
Yeah, absolutely. You shouldn't forget as well, in that cluster of guys, I would also include Garrett Cooper in there. So those 5, if they can find a way to muster enough offense, then the Marlins have a chance. They do. Yeah. It's just, the regression we saw from, Soler got injured and was hurt. Jazz was hurt. But, Avisel stepped back so severely last year. The Marlins have got 25% of their payroll invested into Soler and Avisel Garcia combined. Those 2 just need to find a way, stay healthy, and just deliver career averages. Career averages will be fine, and the rest around them will do what they need to do, and the Marlins can win some games.
And here's where we're going to put a lot of pressure on Kim Ng, because there are some teams out there that are really going to be bad this year.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be some teams out there who are going to have a fire sale or two by the time we get past the All-Star break. If the Marlins are hanging around, and we've seen the last bunch of years, all you have to do is be hanging around by the All-Star break. And, the Braves had a losing record at the trade deadline. The Phillies were and also ran at the All-Star break. Washington had a losing record going into June. Just hang around. And if you have a team, and you see this happen every year where there'll be a trade which doesn't appear to be a blockbuster, and we'll get into the final segment why I like the Puck acquisition. If you get someone to say, hey, I'm suddenly playing for something. Suddenly this is real. And all right, you're not asking for someone to give you 162 games. You're asking them to give you 60 games. 60 games at a high level where there's a reason to go to the ballpark. If you just make sure you're hanging around the 500 mark, by the time they start throwing bodies over the edge of the boat, because it no longer is as profitable for a team or as smart to let a player walk. You might as well get something for them.
Yeah, for sure.
If they could get a bat or two, kind of like we saw, like the greatest examples what Atlanta did a couple of years ago with Soler and with Rosario and with Jock Peters. They rebuilt their outfield with 3 moves that I don't think got a blip when they happened. But you got those 3
Adam
players.
Duvall was part of that. Adam Duvall was in the mix too from the Marlins.
Exactly,
got a backup catcher. Insane.
I forgot Duvall was one there too. They were the spark that they gave. That's kind of where Kim Ng is going. All right, you're not going to acquire Judge or anyone like that, but what if you get someone who's clearly good, who's in the wrong place, who realizes, hey, if I play well now, we have a shot to have some meaningful baseball, and it has a ripple effect. It has a ripple effect on the other bats. It takes pressure off the starting pitchers, take pressure off of the bullpen. That's the key. Hang around and go bargain hunting.
No doubt. And the thing we should call out as well is contract year for Kim Ng as well. So, she pressure's on. The wins and losses for the Marlins in Kim's tenure, it's not been good. And so this year, if the Marlins are in the mix, I expect Kim to really push the ticket and look to try and hit some upgrade buttons as they can. I think we're all calling it out. Like, they're still missing a center fielder. We've got, Jazz Chisholm in center field. So they'll be hunting for center field all year. This Tyler O'Neill situation at St. Louis, I think, is very interesting for the Marlins.
Me too.
I think the Marlins and Cardinals, they just fit neatly with trades. The Cardinals are probably a little bit scorned dealing with the Marlins, considering that's where we got Sandy Alcantara from as part of the Ozuna deal. So perhaps there's a bit of history there, but the Marlins are going to be hunting center fielders, but they're also going to be hunting a big bat all year long. And so it doesn't have to be to the deadline, but I guess maybe the prices will be a little bit cheaper there at that point, because this Marlins farm isn't quite what it was a few years ago. And so some of the shiny toys, I would say, some of the shiny toys have regressed. The question is can those toys rebound? And what I'm talking about here is, what does Khalil Watson look like, for example?
But when I brought up the Soler and Rosario deals, they didn't give up blue chippers to get them.
No, they didn't.
The Atlanta gave up basically, spare parts to get them. I'm sure someone's going to say, actually, but verbatim, that's what they're going to say. But I think that, look, a lot of it is Kim Ng has to make a bet on this year. They have to produce something. Can't just be another losing season. She's got to put a bet on this team. She's got to sort of say, you know what? I'm putting my money where my mouth is. If you want to make any bets, head on over to FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and now's the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1 $1,000. How many pounds is that?
It's probably, I don't know, 800 pounds these days.
About 800 pounds. There you go.
We're not looking good.
No, I probably didn't mean to make this conversion time. You didn't know I was throwing it to you then. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Is that pound sterling? Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Is that how many pence is that? It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you could bet on anything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. That's French. So don't miss your chance to get your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 or 800 pounds sterling in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association.
Stunning.
Peter Pratt's here from Locked on Marlins. Hey, quick question. Is Charles on the money yet or what?
He is on the money. You know, I mean, that's one of the first orders of business, right? Yep. Get the king on the notes.
Yep.
No doubt.
Love that Jeffrey Ross, the comedian who always does the roasts in America, whenever he's on a roast where there's like a lot of aging comics, he would say, "I've seen younger faces on cash," which of course makes sense in America because there are only dead presidents on here. But no, you only have your living monarchs.
There we go.
There you go. Didn't mean to make this be a British currency situation, but hey, guess what? I still have in my wallet here. Hold on. I got a £5 note.
Oh man,
got a £5 note.
Right which kind of version is it? Let's have a look. What version? Oh boy.
There you go.
I've got some bad news, Sully. Real bad news. They've changed the notes. They've changed them. They've changed.
What happened?
They've upgraded them. They're like this kind of like weird, rubbery, textured kind of notes now. And so they've basically swapped.
So it is like Charles. So it is like Charles. A weird rubbery texture.
They got the weird rubbery guy in.
Yep.
Sully, I think that is now one for just the museum now, brother.
I can't spend this?
I don't think so.
You tell me if I go to London tomorrow and I want to get me £5 worth of fish and chips, I'm going to give them, here, I got this Liz here. I throw down my Liz, and they can say, "Scram, we need a Chuck."
Yeah, we need a rubbery one.
We need a rubber biscuit. We're here. Welcome to Locked on Currency with Peter Pratt.
Yeah.
All right, I want to go to I like Puck. I'll tell you one thing what I like about Puck. AJ Puck, the closer for now, he's he did let up a home run, but he's a guy who was a big heralded prospect in the Oakland system. Didn't work out in Oakland, kind of like Luzardo for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like Luzardo and Puck on this team because it's a fresh start for them. And sometimes you see that. Sometimes you see a player needs to have that. He was a big prospect here or there, didn't quite work out. Brand new situation, they dust themselves off. And, there's a case like Phil Nevin, who was the number 1 overall pick a bunch of years ago, flopped badly with the Astros and with the Tigers and bounced around and finally became an all-star with the Padres. Heck, JD Martinez is probably the best example I could think of, where he was the completely wrong fit in Houston, got a change of scenery in Detroit, and suddenly became an all-star caliber slugger. Sometimes it's the Elton John song, "A Change Will Do You Good, Get Back Honky Cat." The greatest example of it all was Nolan Ryan. When Nolan Ryan was pitching for the Mets, he didn't have the proper instruction. He was on the verge of retiring, gets traded to the Angels, works with a good pitching coach, and becomes a Hall of Famer. Now, am I saying AJ Puck is going to become a Hall of Famer? Yes. Yes, he will.
Yes.
But I like it when you have a team saying, "Hey, let's give someone a new chance. Let's give someone a fresh start." And sometimes, we all need that.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one thing you called out there, is the thing that's on my mind is these Oakland A's, Miami Marlins trades. They seem to be working well for the Marlins. And listen, the Marlins can certainly identify pitching talent. That's one thing they have no problem doing is identifying talent, developing talent. Puck, from what we've seen, he's going to be, Skip Schumacher, the new manager, was talking about, well, maybe we'll go with, matchups or a committee or however you want to phrase it in the ninth inning. What we've seen thus far in the first couple of games is there's an opportunity, Puck's up every time. It isn't like, oh, is Matt Barnes up or is Dylan Floro? No, Puck is up for every time. Puck's going to be given the opportunity to close games. The interesting thing, and I actually haven't gone into this on my own pod recently, but let's not forget as well, AJ Puck was going to be starting for the A's this year. He was slated to be back into the rotation. And, with Cueto going down, what we shouldn't rule out fully is maybe the Marlins need Puck in the rotation at some point this year. Who knows? We'll wait to see on that one. But I'd like to see them. They had a real deficiency in the ninth last year, the Marlins. They really did. Yeah. And they lost a lot of games early in the year when they were hovering at 500. And a lot of those games were one-run losses or blown saves. And Kim has gone out there and said, listen, we're going to move a former blue-chip prospect in many ways in JJ Bleday. We're going to move him for AJ Puck. We've got tons of outfielders knocking around. Bleday's blocked, but we need a closer, and we need one now. And we need one with multiple years of control that we don't have to pay a ton of dollars to. So I absolutely love the fit. Can Puck do the job? I think he can. Is there going to be a few ups and downs? I think there will be. We've already seen, his ERA right now sits at 9. He's given up a run in both appearances. So overall, it hasn't been shut down closer, but the stuff is there.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see with AJ Puck this year.
Yeah, and I am too. I think it was a very smart move, and I think that you're, and this is going to sound mean, but I'm saying this
with
love, that because there isn't the same scrutiny for the Marlins and the same level of eyeballs on the Marlins, he could have a little bit of a learning curve. We're only talking about 2 freaking games at this point. Every person needs a little bit of growing pains, and he has been someone who has been on is in the Bay Area for a long time. He's been on A's fans' radar for a while as a very talented pitcher, and so I love the idea of saying, hey, look, this is your role. You could become a very wealthy man doing this for a while, so just do it here. But there's a chicken or the egg thing that goes on with bullpens and rotations. Do you need a strong bullpen to have an effective rotation, or do you need an effective rotation to have a strong bullpen? The answer is yes. That the teams that I think have had the best synergy, the 2 best synergies I've ever seen for pitching and bullpen have been the Joe Torre Yankees and the Bruce Bochy Giants, where you had starting pitchers who could go relatively deep in the games, but you also had bullpen arms that you could totally rely on, which means you didn't have to blow out your starters' arms having to throw complete games every day, but it also means you're not wearing down the freaking bullpen because they're coming in the 5th inning every day. I love it. Everyone says, why is our bullpen so worn out? I don't know. You're taking the pitchers out in the 2nd, And I think having Alcantara, I think Luzardo is going to show that he has a little bit of depth to him. That feeds the bullpen. It means you won't have as pooped a bullpen, and you'll have an effective rotation.
Absolutely. We've seen it with Sandy, right? Sandy's out there trying to go 9 every time. That's his mentality, and he pitches in that way. Like, he's not looking for the Ks, the big K numbers. Like, he doesn't care about that. Sandy cares more about the number of innings that he goes. He's an innings guy first, not Ks. So, and Sandy really saved the pen the other day, because the first time through the rotation, it was a bit sticky. The Cueto start, he comes out injured, bullpen's decimated, right? Because you can effectively end up with a bullpen game. And then Sandy comes in and says, hey, listen, I need 100 pitches. I need less than 2 hours, and we're going to get this win. And it's huge for the Marlins. Definitely is.
And right there is why I don't think 65 wins is in the cards, or as a 65. I think they're going to win 65, but then I think they're going to win a few more after that, because you have a pitcher like Alcantara who won't allow for a long-term slump, and also won't allow for your bullpen to be gassed.
Yeah.
I mean, even if he throws 7 or 8 innings, you know that, okay, you don't have to blow the whole damn bullpen up. And you saw that with the two teams that I just mentioned, the Tory Yankees and the Bochy Giants. Yeah, both of those teams had really deep bullpens with all-stars, whether it was, Rivera or it's, Wetland or, Stanton or Nelson with the Yankees, or, Affeldt or Brian Wilson for a while, or Romo or Santiago Casilla for San Francisco. You weren't using those guys 7 days a week because you knew Kane could go pretty deep. Bumgarner could go pretty deep. Lincecum in his prime could go deep. The same way Wells could go 6-7 innings, or Cone or Clemens or Pettit or El Duque. So I think that if you're seeing Alcantara and Luzardo could give them 2 times through the rotation where you're only asking for 6 outs from your bullpen, as opposed to, oh God, here we go. I mean, you just said it perfectly. Cueto blows up. He only pitches 1 damn inning. And then Alcantara said, bullpen, take the day off. I got it in a 1-0 game.
Mm-hmm. I know. That's Sandy though, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. That's why he is so critical to everything. Everything goes off Sandy because, like you said, the pen knows they're going to have a rest day. And and what they do know is what we've seen with Trevor Rogers, Edward Cabrera, they don't have the length in them.
No.
That those two do. So they do know that 2 out of the 5 games, it's likely there's going to be 4 innings worth of work a game, probably. Right. 5 innings for the 2 starters, perhaps. We'll wait to see what they do with the fifth starter as well. So, the pen is going to be tested, but it's critical for Sandy and Jesus Luzardo to do what they do, go deep into games, let the pen have the rest, and equally the offense step up too.
And then that's when Perez, when he comes up, if he can pitch the way that he can, then that's when you could possibly really see the ebbs and the flows do well. Well, look, Peter, that's Peter Pratt. That is why I am picking the Marlins to go to the playoffs.
Let's go. I didn't expect that, Sully. I must say, when you invited me on, I did not expect you to kick that off, the show off in that way. So
I'm a man of many surprises. I'm a man of many surprises, by the way.
Do you just say that to everyone? Do you say that to every
guest? No, God, no.
Oh, okay.
Let the record show. Angel fans and Ranger fans hate me. Hate me with a capital hate, because I don't think they're going to have a great year this year. And I would like the Rangers to do well. Bruce Bochy is my dad's favorite manager. And I'm in Southern California. You don't think I want to see Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani in the World Series? Come on. I don't buy what they did. And I've had people he said, I question your integrity. What?
Whoa. They've been watching baseball for the past 5-6 years or whatever. However long, I don't know. But we know what the Angels do. The Angels are the Angels. Yeah.
I'm only picked one of the teams with two of the teams with the longest postseason drought. I picked them to not make the postseason. And the other one, the main thing I said was, I didn't think that they were going to get a full season from DeGrom without injury.
Yeah.
Oh, you hate DeGrom.
Shocker, right?
I love DeGrom. I want him to throw 30 starts. I don't think it's going to happen.
This is it.
But, so the answer is no. I don't say this to every team. The long answer is that no. Just read the comments.
Yeah.
Read the comments. Well, Marlin fans will either love me for saying their team's praises or hate me for cursing the team, as it were. Hey, Peter Pratt, tell people where they can listen to your terrific show.
For sure. It's Locked On Network as well. Locked On Marlins, guys, hit it up there. And if you want to follow me, head over to Twitter. I'm too old for Instagram and for TikToks and all of that. Twitter's my only spot, really. At Miami Marlins _UK, guys. Head on over to there. And follow along. Hit subscribe to the pod if you like your Marlins vibes. Of course, rotation's going to be sexy. Offense is going to be better. There's going to be more wins. Come and join us.
There you go. And by the way, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, obviously make it Locked On Marlins.
Why not?
But then your third listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategy. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on the YouTubes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. You can find us on Twitter and on Instagram. I'm a young 50.
Yeah, young buck.
I'm a young 50-year-old man. We're at Locked On MLB Pods on both of those. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you found me on TikTok, that's a pirated account. I'm not on TikTok. You can look for me on MySpace, Friendster, in an AOL chat room, or send me a postcard. Well, using this magnificent technology to talk about Miami baseball with a fella in Leeds. He's Peter Pratt. There you are. He is Peter Pratt of Locked On Marlins. I'm Paul Francis Sullivan, host of Locked On MLB. Please, I'm begging you, call me Sully. So really, this isn't worth anything? Seriously.
It's gone.